One of the key features of the armed conflict in Bosnia and Herzegovina was the pervasive use of rape and other forms of sexual violence. Most women victims of wartime sexual violence were Bosnian Muslim women, but Serb and Croatian women were also victimized by different military and paramilitary groups. Many of these women live now in dire circumstances, still struggling with all sorts of medical issues, but also lack of justice for the crimes they survived. However, the punishment imposed on the perpetrator often failed to contribute to their sense of satisfaction for the suffering. The analysis was prepared based on the review of 48 cases involving wartime sexual violence. These judgments were handed down in the period between 2017 and 2023. This analysis shows that sentences for the crimes of wartime sexual violence are still lenient, inconsistent. For example, in the case against Žark Vuković, the court of Bosnia and Herzegovina imposed a reduced prison sentence of 7 years, even though the statutory minimum is 10 years. And the court did not undertake a comparative analysis and assessment of the relevant mitigating and aggravating factors. So the court stated only one mitigating factor, that is that the defendant had no previous conviction. And this was enough for the court to conclude that the lack of his previous conviction is a particularly mitigating factor that justifies the sentence below the statutory minimum. Therefore, it is reasonable to doubt whether such imposed sentences meet the purpose of punishment. Wartime sexual violence is a crime that not only leaves a physical and psychological trauma on the victim, but also threatens the fabric of society, especially when the ratio of the gravity of the crime and the sanction imposed is distorted. Bosnia and Herzegovina is a land in which a total of 750 mass graves were uncovered after the war, and some 7,000 people are still missing. It is the post-conflict and post-genocide nation state in which survivors still live together with some of the perpetrators and bystanders, all burdened with the trauma of war and unresolved past grievances. So giving the all aforementioned the impact that the sentencing policy pertaining to grave violations of international law has on social awareness and narratives, it's really of the utmost importance to address sentencing for this crime without further delay.